Hey, welcome to Cal Mentors. It's great to have you. Episode number 26. We're going to talk about trust. And see, Robby, here's the thing. When I was a kid, when I was growing up, we had this natural trust for authority and for the boss and for people. And I just don't understand why you kids can't come into the workplace and have a little trust in what we're trying to do.
No, the pops is still delusional, folks. Pops, if you remember, you're the generation that coined the phrase, never trust anyone over 30.
Clearly I didn't expect you to have that little piece of knowledge.
Yeah. Thankfully, we have a trust expert here today. Let's get rolling.
All right, Randy Conley on the other side. Stay with us.
This is Counter Mentors with Kelly and Robby Riggs. Finally, a place where you can get both perspectives on challenges in the workplace from a boomer and a millennial. The Counter Mentor is the new leader. Join us as we show you how to blend the very best of both generations, young and old. This is Counter Mentors. And here are your hosts, Kelly and Robby Riggs.
All right, we are so excited to be here. I know this is one of those episodes that we actually get to talk to a real-life expert. We don't have to rely on the pops for any lies or He's actually one of the esteemed Gen X. Just he's not a boomer.
Please.
Thank you, Lord.
He's born in 66.
Welcome to Counter Mentors. This is the show where we tell boomers to change the freaking program. And we also tell millennials to get with the program. I'm your co-host, Robby Riggs. Follow me on Twitter at Robby Riggs. And that's the Pops rocking his just ridiculously awesome hat. Follow him on Twitter at Kelly Riggs. We're excited you're here, and we're excited to talk about, we're going to go back in time today, and we're going to talk about hippies and all sorts of crazy stuff. That was back when Pops had an afro for the white man.
I did. I had an afro for the white man.
That's the real deal. On our show today, we have Mr. Randy Conley. We are so excited he is here. He is a VP and a trust practice leader with the Ken Blanchard Companies. You've heard us quote Ken Blanchard once or twice on the show. Follow him on Twitter at Randy Conley and check out his blog. It is outstanding, leadingwithtrust.com. And of course, I saved the most important introduction for last. He was just named a top 100 thought leader in trusted business behavior. So we have a trust expert. Mr. Conley, welcome to Counter Mentors.
Thank you very much.
And I'm so glad to have you on, Randy, because you're a trusted thought leader, one of the top 100 in the world. When you tell Robby he's wrong, he has to trust you. I like that.
Oh, this show might be uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Source.
I see this one going my way for a change. Hey, thanks for joining us. Listen, we want to get started right out of the chute. You know, you have spent a big part of your career dealing with trust issues in the workplace. And clearly, the boomer-millennial interface in the workplace is wrought with all kinds of trust problems. I think it's obvious. They're different. My generation was different when I came in. Your generation, Gen X, was just totally screwed up. I don't know what you guys have done. And then millennials are a train wreck. So, I mean, we've all been different as we've come into the workplace. But is there more to it than that, Randy? Is it that simple? Is it just difference? Or is there some really structural things that are important as well?
Well, we could just settle the argument right now and just say the problem is the millennials.
Yeah!
But
I thought I was going to like Randy. I really did.
If we were to oversimplify that, we wouldn't have anything to talk about the next.
Well, as Robby likes to point out to me, it was boomers that raised them that way. So
that's true.
That's
true. We all have a hand in it.
That's right.
Every generation has some defining characteristics, right, that have influenced them through culture and media, their families, values. Millennials are no different in that regard. They've got their own set of dynamics that have influenced the way that they perceive trust in this case. And what's interesting is that when you look at the surveys and data around generational trust levels, millennials do tend to be at the bottom. They tend to be a pretty skeptical bunch in terms of, saying that they don't agree with these statements of most people can be trusted. They tend to be pretty suspicious of others as a stereotype generalization.
Well, and I say not even a generalization. I mean, right, based on that survey, I mean that was a statistically significant event, and I think that I mean, we looked at that study done by boomers. It was something like 33% of them said coming out of high school they trusted. X's, it was like almost cut in half, 18%. And then millennials now, it's 16%. So, I mean, that is clearly dropping. And man, it's a fact that, I mean, I think as a millennial, I get it. I mean, I would probably agree with that. So, Randy, what do you think is causing that? I mean, is that really just because boomers are such terrible managers? I mean, that's kind of what I think, but I mean,
wow.
I don't just throwing it out there.
Well,
I mean,
you know, as a Gen Xer, I could say there is a lot of truth to that, Robert.
Guys, you are such a politician, Conley. Unbelievable.
Both sides of the
him. I like him.
Which, by the way, Kelly, I love your fedora. Very fedorable there.
Yeah, thank you. Love that. Oh,
if I knew you were
the end of that.
If I knew you were gonna wear it, I would have worn mine.
Robby almost spewed coffee everywhere.
He just called you fedorable. Oh man, hashtag fedorable. Our Christina Booker, who does a lot of work for us, big shout out to her. Please mark that, and we need to do a whole social campaign. Whole social campaign around that.
Pop to this fedorable.
Oh my word, that's awesome.
Well,
that's
you
awesome.
know, to get back to your question, Robby, I think it is important to look at the millennials' levels of trust within the greater context of society. This society overall, since the 70s, really generalized trust, which is the phrase that the researchers use, that's been declining. You know, that's across the board. Trust in government, trust in institutions, trust in business. It's been on a downward trend. And millennials are, I think, just the latest iteration of that, the latest examples of people who are just generally less trusting in society than they were 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Hey,
yeah, I agree.
But what does that do to relationships, Randy? What does it do in the work? I mean, you start off with the premise, I don't trust you. I mean, that's got to say something about the decline of relationships at every level.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because at the heart of trust is a relationship. That's at the very heart. And without risk, there is no need for trust. And and I think as a society, we have gotten so what's the word? We have so withdrawn into ourselves, into protecting what is ours,
isolated, right? Yeah,
isolated in our communities, that we become suspicious of others. We don't want to engage in the risk to be vulnerable with others, and so therefore it starts to, you know, influence our perceptions of trust. Wow. It's a unique. One of the aspects of trust is propensity to trust. Every one of us are hardwired with different levels of willingness to trust based on our value system, based on our upbringing, based on our early childhood experiences, our life experiences. On the spectrum, some of us are very willing to trust. It's like, hey, I trust you until you show me that you're not trustworthy.
Right.
Others are like, I'm not going to trust you until you've proven to me time after time after time that you're trustworthy. And most of us fall somewhere in between there. So that's a very critical element. Our propensity to trust drives how willing we are to engage in risk with others.
Absolutely. And one thing, Randy, I think you need to, on this show, you just have to be careful using words like propensity. Now the pops, those are big words for him. So
not really sure.
If he looks confused, I just, you know, he doesn't have that master's degree that some of us have. So
of course, what I like to say to Rob is, why would you use a $12 word when a $1 word would work? So we could say apt, you know, that would work too as well.
No, Dad, there isn't an app for trust. There isn't a trust app. No.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, Rob, by the way, you know, as we were looking at the data for the show, did you notice that trust of news on the internet is very low as well? That one kind of shocked me, Randy, because I could see people not trusting the media for 100 reasons. They all fight with each other anyway. But typically the millennial and now even X and Boomer, we're all going to the internet, but they say the trust level for internet news is not that good. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. My thought is that millennials, they're really the first generation that's grown up with the technology in their hand, right?
Right.
As young kids, they had some sort of device they were playing with to help them learn. And I think they are more in tune with the internet. They know both the benefits and the drawbacks of the internet. And they know that any Yahoo can post anything on the internet. And, just
whoa,
doesn't make it true.
Robby, you've been telling me all this time that if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. I'm confused.
There's so many jokes I want to make here. Like I can't in my mind figure out which way I want to really send this. I didn't even know if your question was real or sarcastic. I'm going to be totally honest.
But on the flip side of that, what's really interesting is the data shows that millennials, they're among the tops in terms of trusting like Yelp reviews.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Peer reviews, because that's real, it's tangible. They know that there's a real person who has experienced that product or service, and they'll trust their opinion much more than they would the business CEO saying, buy my product, it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Randy. If when you see the millennials, especially influencers, athletes, connected young, business entrepreneurs, et cetera, that have been successful, anytime they post on social media and it is in fact an ad, they'll always put #ad, right? They want people to know, hey, this is an ad. I am being compensated. And it's almost, again, it's that swing in the other direction. Like, look, I don't want you to think that this is an ad. I'm being paid for this. But when you see an older person on social media, maybe like your boss, or maybe like the Pops, when he gets paid for something, he doesn't put #ad because he doesn't realize that we see through that. So it is. But your point is spot on. I mean,
well, part of the difference though is that us boomers are actually working and earning money. We're not living with our parents. So, we don't have to write those things in there because we're actually earning the living. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man, that one.
Hey, Randy, would you say that's a trustworthy statement?
Kelly, I don't think I'm going to touch that one.
Oh man,
Randy! All he's trying to do is get one-liners that he can snag and put on social media.
I do. I need some social media stuff.
He's trying to one-up the #Fedorable is what he
is. He's not going to hit that. No. So I want to. This conversation's fascinating, and I think that I definitely have a point of view on it. In that, as millennials, we have been bombarded. I mean, since we could really understand, starting at about age 8 or 10, we've been bombarded by 24-hour cable news, and later Twitter and 140 characters and Facebook and yada, yada, yada. It goes on and on and on. So we've been bombarded by the world is ending, bad news, things are terrible. It's awful. Yeah, so it's actually, in my opinion, it's not a big stretch to go, well, of course millennials don't trust things. Like they've been hearing how terrible everyone and everything, every politician has crashed and burned, every big sports star. I mean, Tiger Woods was a staple of my upbringing as a, watching golf. I mean, he was the reason I got into golf, and he crashed and burned. I mean, so we've seen all these things happen. And so of course we're like, well, I don't want to get too attached because I don't want you to let me down. And so I think that's a big part of it.
It's huge. Let me ask you a question, Robby. Tell me 2 or 3 of your most defining life experiences.
One is absolutely when I married my beautiful wife. Big shout out to her, Dr. Riggs. When I married her, one of them was defining life experiences,
like culturally and socially, like those. Where where you were the moment that something happened.
9/11, without a doubt. 9/11. Other big cultural things. Oh, and then probably the Boston Marathon bombings, being a Bostonian. So probably those 3. Those would be the big 3. Yeah.
You know what's interesting is he didn't say the Patriots Super Bowl win. So I really have hope for myself. Normally he would say, okay, well there was the Patriots win, and then the Red Sox won the World Series. And
well, the Patriots have won twice since. But that's
I knew. All I had to do is get him going.
Yeah, but that is hugely important. That is so telling that the millennials, some of their most defining life moments are tragedies, right?
Yes,
9/11, Boston Marathon bombing, Great Recession, 2008. The generation that's labeled shouldered with huge college debt. 6-figure debt by the time they get out of college.
That's right.
They've grown up in some challenging circumstances.
Yeah, and I'll throw another piece on there as well, Randy. One of the pieces that they've grown up with is that they've seen their parents lose their jobs not have that security, come under the impression that big corporate America really doesn't give a crap about you, right? And so they really have this thought process that I'm going into a scenario where they tell me I'm supposed to graduate college and get a job. I don't even know if I can trust these people to keep me on board very long, right?
No, it's a fact. And don't forget, we were raised by, and this is with all due respect, but we were raised by the divorce generation. So not even that sacred, supposed to be the most sacred thing is even sacred anymore. So, I mean, it's like we're having this conversation and it's kind of like, well, no kidding. Like, duh, of course we don't. Of course we don't trust. I think let's
segue then, Robby. Randy Conley joins us if you're listening to us on the pod. Really excited to have him. Top 100 trusted thought leader in America. Also, leadingwithtrust.com is his blog. Follow him on Twitter at Randy Conley. Here's a guy that's been with Ken Blanchard Companies for a very long time, VP and trust practice leader. What we really want to get down to is in this show, we like to take some things away. I mean, real practical things. I think boomers, first and foremost, as bosses, need to understand that millennials come into the workplace. They probably, strong likelihood, they don't trust you, or at very least they're neutral, right? So, Randy, what does the smart boomer leader do to start to create that trust almost immediately?
Yeah, I think number one, first and foremost, it's the relationship. They've got to focus on the relationship. Any manager that's hiring a new person in, particularly someone from the millennial generation, I think their number one priority is to establish trust, to let them know, I am here to help you succeed and be the best that you can be. And if you can do that, then I think you're starting off at a much healthier, stronger place. Kelly, as you know from our previous work together, I advocate that there are 4 core elements of trust. And we've created a fun little acronym called the ABCDs of trust. And the A is ability. You've got to demonstrate competence in what you do. As a leader, you need to be technically good at the technical aspects of your job, and you've got to be good with the soft leadership skills.
Right.
People respect you and have confidence in you because you're skilled at what you do. So that's the able. That's what the A stands for, able. The B, you have to be believable. And that's being a person with integrity. You walk the talk.
Yeah, that's big.
If you say it's important, you follow through with your actions. You make promises you can keep. You treat people fairly. You treat people ethically. And then the C stands for connected. You've got to have the best interests of those you lead at heart. You have to be in their corner. You want to help them succeed. You've got to build rapport. You've got to establish the relationship. And that's probably the most simple and easiest thing a leader can do is take time to get to know someone.
Just be interested, right?
Yeah.
Just be interested.
Listen. Yeah.
Be interested. Listen.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much trust you can build just by listening. So that's the connected. Able, believable, connected, and then the D stands for dependable. You've got to follow through. Say you're going to do something, do it.
Yeah.
So really by keeping those ABCDs of trust top of mind and making sure your behavior aligns with those, that's at the heart of developing a high trust relationship.
Yeah, and I think, go ahead, Pop.
Well, I was going to say, so I thought, Robby, for the audience, we would practice and kind of give them a sense of how this works in real life. So you've gone to work for me, which is sketchy to begin with. Okay, so we're having our first conversation, and I would say, Randy, I need you to coach me on this, but I would say, Robby, it's very good to have you with our organization, and we really think that you have a lot to offer to us, and I am here to help develop you and help you become everything that you can be. Now, sit down and shut up and do what I tell you, and we'll have an annual review at the end of the year, and I'll tell you how you've done. How am I doing so far? Is that, and I missed one.
You started like this and then slowly.
No. I know where I missed it. Now, do you have anything that you'd like to tell me because I need to listen? Okay, good. Thank you. That was a great interview, a great start. Randy, I love the ABCDs of trust. They're great with these millennials.
Randy, what we found, this is our 27th show together, and what we found is that the Pops has an incredible ability of botching the summary of what our guests say. I mean, he's absolutely terrible at it because here's the thing. He knows that this millennial problem is his fault. So he really struggles whenever people tell him that.
I don't hear anybody
differently.
Randy, do you hear anybody calling it a boomer problem? I hear them calling it a millennial problem. That's what I hear it called.
That's a good
So
point.
It's got to be their fault, not my fault.
My gosh. Yeah, because if everybody's saying it, it's got to be true. No,
it's on the internet.
That's exactly right.
It's on the internet. It's got to be true.
Yeah, no, but so going back before we got completely derailed by whatever that was.
Sorry, I just wanted to contribute.
You wanted to add value. No, I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? You are fedorable. I'm just going to tell you that. You're fedorable. But Randy, I think as a millennial, what you've said, that ABCD, I love that. And we will borrow that reference. We'll reference that. Yeah. But I love that. And as a millennial, that's what I care about. Because if I come in and you can't carry my briefcase, we have a problem. Right. So that able is key. If I come in and you don't care about me, you don't want to get to know me, you don't want to get to know my family, my wife, what I care about, my values are, I'm out. If you're not, that connection is critical. If you're not, like you said, believable, right? If I look at you and there's a strong distrust, or I know you threw somebody under the bus, or I hear
that's the big one, right?
Talking noise. Yeah, it's huge, right? I'm out. And then finally, the whole being dependable aspect of it. I mean, that loyalty, it's so funny. Millennials are dubbed as, we're not loyal and we're job hoppers. And I would say, look at the data, everyone's hopping jobs now, but that's neither here nor there. But we care about that loyalty. I care that you're going to be there for me and you're going to have my back. And I want to enter into a mentor and a reverse mentor relationship with you. So, I mean, as a millennial, all four of those boxes that you checked, I'm in, right? With that, we can last. And, we know the studies show that we're not looking for a paycheck, right? I want a sense of purpose. And I don't want a boss. I want a coach or a mentor. And when you do those ABCDs of trust, which I think your point, you got to build that relationship, man, that makes me really excited, makes me want to be part of something. And, frankly, we know, Randy, and I'd love to get your point of view on this, but we know that millennials, we hear people say all the time, and we love to say that we're the most connected generation, right? We're more connected than ever before. But I think you would agree that that connection actually is prohibiting us from truly connecting with other people. Tell me what you think and kind of your point of view on that.
That's right. It's so interesting to me that in 2017, we are more connected through social media and technology than any other time in history. And yet we also have this great epidemic of loneliness.
Wow.
That's right. And depression. Yeah.
And depression and mental health issues. And I think it gets to the heart of people. I mean, we're here, even though we're connected by technology, we're face to face. We can see each other. Right. It's the next best thing to being in the room together. And we have allowed technology, and this is culturally speaking, we've allowed technology to take the place of face-to-face relationships.
Sure.
So it's so much easier to text someone, say, hey, how you doing? Than it is to schedule a lunch meeting with them and actually get together.
That's right.
Which is really interesting to me, son, because we've talked about this before. I mean, millennials like the relationship, don't they? I mean, it's not like you're relationship averse. Right. Is it just because it's easier to carry on multiple conversations through a device or something like that? I mean, what keeps those real connections from happening?
Yeah, I mean, my point of view, and obviously, Randy, I'd love for you to get your point of view on this, but I think that a big part of it is the convenience factor. I mean, we grew up, remember this, we grew up on a college campus sitting on our laptop, IMing someone that was potentially just 2 doors down or across the quad or on the other side of the bar, right? I mean, we didn't go up and talk, dating was swipe left, swipe right. So we haven't been conditioned, right? We haven't learned how to have that connection in a lot of places, especially if you grew up in again, 51% of millennials grew up in a broken family, right? So we didn't necessarily see how that connection was supposed to work the right way. So we're naturally scared of it. I mean, Randy, what do you think? Am I way off there, or is that close?
No, I think you're spot on. And I mean, as a Gen Xer, I've noticed that just through my own behavior, so dating myself, I can remember being in high school, 10th, 11th grade, computer class, right? The old Commodore 64s and the Apple you know.
Yeah. You see how I'm nodding my head like I know what that is? I'm being polite. I have no idea.
I'll tell you later, son.
Kelly's like, yeah, I remember.
Oh, yeah, I had one of those.
Yeah. But so, you know, it was, hey, I'll take a generational point of pride here. It was our generation that created the computer.
That's right, baby.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
You know, that created the internet. Al Gore created the internet. Right?
Yeah, of course. Everybody knows that.
We all
Yeah.
know
Everybody knows that.
But I've seen in my own behavior how less patient I've become and how more important the convenience factor has become.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go into a bank and stand in line for 10 minutes and talk to a bank teller. I want to take a
Randy,
picture.
explain what a bank is to my son. He's probably not aware.
He's like, what? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I want to take a picture and deposit it into my account.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's true.
exactly right.
And technology has so fundamentally, you know, shaped our existence that there's many, many great things about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some human element things that have eroded over the years that have contributed to the trust crisis that we have.
Yeah.
Well, based on your experience then, Randy, let me tell you, I mean, clearly millennials and Gen Z are not just now coming into the workplace. They come in and they have a much different experience. Are they, and this is going to sound silly, son, I think, and I mean this seriously, is there a certain level of intimidation to come into a workplace now where I do have to be face-to-face? Or is a boss better off to, have that initial meeting by text? So that's kind of silly, but no, I mean, is there an intimidation factor?
No.
Yeah. Were you asking Robby that?
No, you, Randy.
Oh, me.
Based on your experience, you bet.
I think there is to some extent. I think I don't know so much intimidation, but a little uncomfortable.
Dis-ease, yeah, you're right.
100%.
Not that they're intimidated to interact with older generations, but it's just not as natural and comfortable as it is for others.
No, it's exactly right. And, one of the things that I can't believe I'm about to do this on a podcast that's recorded. It's going to get used against me. But one of the things I really appreciate about the Pops and my mom, the woman we affectionately call Nona, one thing I appreciate about them is they encouraged us and brought us into adult conversations even at a young age. So even if it was little things like playing cards with the adults or playing dominoes with the adults, or when we would go somewhere out to dinner, it wasn't the kids sat at the end of the table and the adults talked. We were all part of the conversation. Yeah. And I think that made it, I was never intimidated to talk to a partner. When I first started in consulting, the Pops gave me the advice of, you shouldn't buy lunch your first 2 weeks. Go talk to people, see if people take you to lunch. And I made some of my best relationships because of that, because I went in and said, hey, I'm Robby, I'm new here. I want to learn about consulting. I want to be you when I grow up. So help.
You've heard of the book, Randy, Never Eat Alone.
Yeah.
The title of our book was Never Pay for Lunch.
Never Pay for Lunch.
Very similar.
That's right. But it was such a novel idea. And I mean, and I look back, and had he given me that advice but not prepared me to be able to have those conversations, that would have, to use the Pop's favorite term, that would have been a freaking train wreck, right? I mean, I would have gone in and been uncomfortable. And so I think that's a real issue. And I think finally, I know we're coming to the close of this conversation. It's amazing, these good conversations, how quickly they go. But for me, one thing that has always been fascinating, Randy, is, we are, again, because we're so hyper-connected, we like to think, and I'm going to say that we like to think that we understand everyone's point of view. Just because I'm a Republican, I understand Democrats. Or just because I'm a white guy, I understand. We have these. We make these statements like we're so educated and we've come out of our caves. But the reality is, when we've done the studies on social media, the people we follow, the people we're around, they all look and feel and sound just like us. Exactly. We are in our little box. Right. And I'd love to get your point of view on this, of how we create that relationship, how we, actually truly get outside of that shell and really not fool ourselves. Because I believe that's a huge, huge problem. We're still scared to death of someone who doesn't look and feel like we do.
I completely agree with you, Robby. You hit the nail on the head. We have become so accustomed to having our news feed tailored to what we already think and interact with. Our friends are all like-minded and think and act the same way we do. It's not groundbreaking advice here. It's common sense, but it's not common practice.
Yeah.
Right.
And the advice is, you got to get to know people. You got to spend time with people, right?
Well, the fact of the matter is that's one of the real challenges inside the workplace, Randy. You see it as much as we do, is that people are too busy doing the technical aspects of their jobs to build those kind of relationships. Hey, Rob, the music says we got to get out of here. Tell me a little bit about what you took away. What's your hot take for today's show?
Man, it's such great stuff on trust. I'm really, really excited to have Randy here. For me, it was all about getting to know other people. Go and take the time to truly get to know the people. Pops, what's your hot take?
I love the ABCDs of trust. I want to really encourage you to go to leadingwithtrust.com.
That's right.
Find Randy Conley and put that down. That's great stuff for Boomer managers. Hey, that's going to do it for Counter Mentors. It's episode number 26. Never trust anyone over 30.
Ever.
We're out of here. We'll talk to you soon.
Be good.
Thanks for tuning into Counter Mentors with Kelly and Robby Riggs. For more information about the show, to listen to past shows, or to learn more about how Kelly and Robby teach companies the counter mentoring process, visit countermentors.com. The Counter Mentors Show is presented by One-on-One Media, Incorporated. All rights reserved. Opinions expressed by guests on the show may not be the opinions of One-on-One Media or the host of the Counter Mentors Show.